Welcome to This Explainer, where we're diving into the absolute true crime mystery of modern networking, why your IPv6 deployment is probably failing silently right under your nose. Look, if you manage networks, servers, or cloud infrastructure, you already know IPv6 is here. But what you might not realize is that the way it breaks is fundamentally different from literally anything we've dealt with before. Okay, let's jump right into this incredibly infuriating scenario that plagues system admins everywhere. You spin up a new server, you test the connection, and the ping comes back perfectly. Awesome. But the second you try to actually use it, say you initiate an SSH session, load a heavy HTTPS page, or maybe try a file copy, it just freezes. There's no error message, no connection refused, just a dead, silent, hanging screen. Right, so this is the classic symptom. Small packets, like your ping, succeed, but large transfers, SSH, HTTPS, file copies, hang or stall right after the TCP handshake. This is the hallmark of an invisible network killer at work, operating in a space where our trusty legacy troubleshooting tools completely and utterly fail us. Your network isn't just acting weird, it's experiencing a highly specific architectural failure. Section 1, the IPv4 muscle memory problem. To actually solve this mystery, we first have to unlearn decades of IPv4 muscle memory. Seriously, we've spent years building these instincts, and those very instincts are now actively sabotaging our diagnostics. Think about it. Unlike IPv4, where you're looking for one single IP address on an interface, an IPv6 interface normally hosts multiple addresses simultaneously. You're going to see a link local address starting with FE80, hanging out right alongside global unicast addresses, and even temporary privacy addresses, all living on the exact same network card at the exact same time. It's a massive shift. We're moving from the comfort of a single IPv4 identity to the complex reality of IPv6. We aren't dealing with a single point of failure anymore. It's a complex web of coexisting addresses. If you're troubleshooting an issue and you're only checking one of those IPv6 addresses while completely ignoring the rest, well, you're missing the vast majority of the picture. Plus, broadcast pinging? Completely dead. You can't just ping a broadcast address to see who is alive on the subnet anymore. That whole process is handled by multicast now. And the old safety net of NAT, network address translation, is largely absent. Every single device is potentially globally routable, which means your entire security and troubleshooting baseline has totally shifted. Section 2, the happy eyeballs illusion. Now, let's investigate our first prime suspect masking these failures, a really clever piece of engineering known as happy eyeballs. This is an algorithm running in basically every modern browser and operating system. Here's exactly how it plays out. First, it attempts an IPv6 connection to the server. But then it waits a mere 250 milliseconds. That is a tiny window. If IPv6 hasn't connected in that fraction of a second, step 3 kicks in. It silently erases an IPv4 connection alongside it. Finally, whichever protocol connects first wins, and that's the one used for the session. So, here is the kicker. A broken IPv6 network is often completely hidden by this invisible fallback to IPv4. You might have proudly deployed IPv6 to your entire office, but because of some slight misconfiguration, every single user is silently failing back to IPv4 after that 250 milliseconds. You are completely in the dark that your IPv6 deployment just failed. Everything looks perfectly fine to the user, but under the hood, your shiny new network architecture is totally broken. Section 3, the PMTUD black hole. If happy eyeballs is masking your failures, our next culprit is the one actually causing them. Let's map out the crime scene of the deadliest silent killer of them all, the Path MTU Discovery, or PMTUD black hole. Step 1, your server sends a large IPv6 packet outbound. Step 2, somewhere along the path, a router hits an MTU limit. Basically, the packet is just too big for the next hop. Step 3, now in IPv6, routers don't fragment packets for you anymore. Instead, the router tries to warn the sender by generating an ICMPv6 type 2 message, which translates to packet too big. But then we hit step 4. Your overzealous legacy firewall drops that crucial ICMPv6 warning into a literal black hole, all because of an old IPv4 rule that says block all ICMP. And the result? The sender never learns the packet was dropped, so it never bothers to resend a smaller one. It just waits forever. And boom, that is exactly why your SSH session hangs. But you can use a super simple ping test to reveal this invisible drop. If a 100-byte ping succeeds, but a 1400-byte ping fails or times out, you have definitively confirmed a PMTUD block hole on your network. To fix this mess, you have got to permanently unlearn that old IPv4 habit of blocking ICMP. ICMPv6 is not optional, guys. It is the absolute lifeblood of the protocol. For example, blocking type 1 error signaling or type 2 breaks your MTU discovery. Blocking types 133 through 137 breaks your router and neighbor discovery entirely. If you drop these specific ICMPv6 types at your firewall, you will instantly and silently break your network. You absolutely must permit them. Section 4, Middle Boxes and VPN Voids. Sometimes your network is configured flawlessly, but the middle boxes and VPNs are secretly undermining your traffic. IPv6 uses this flexible system called extension headers to add features to packets. The problem, a lot of middle boxes, like firewalls, WAN optimizers, and load balancers, are just poorly programmed to handle them. They'll silently drop IPv6 packets if they contain unknown extension headers, once again acting as another invisible failure point for perfectly legitimate traffic. There's no bounce back, no error log on the client, just vanished packets. We also really need to be aware of the VPN void. Older VPN clients, or even poorly configured modern ones, might intentionally block IPv6 to prevent split tunnel leaks. And hey, that sounds great for security, right? But if the client blocks the IPv6 traffic on the local machine and doesn't actually route it through the secure tunnel, all your IPv6 destinations just mysteriously drop dead the very second the VPN connects. Another massive environmental headache is rogue router advertisements, or RAs. In IPv6, devices rely on RAs to find their default gateway. But if a random developer spins up a misconfigured Docker container, it might actually start broadcasting itself as the default IPv6 router for your entire office. Yikes! If these rogue RAs are silently hijacking your default routes, taking these 3 actionable steps will immediately lock things down. Disable IPv6 on Docker bridge networks in your daemon JSON, turn on RA guard on your physical switch access ports, and isolate your virtual machine or container traffic onto a dedicated VLAN. Section 5. Essential IPv6 diagnostic tools. Finally, let's equip you with the magnifying glass you need to actually spot these invisible issues. If you want to stop failing silently, you have to use the right tools for the job. First up, you need to understand that ARP, the address resolution protocol you've relied on for years, is completely gone. Yep, history. It's been replaced by NDP, the Neighbor Discovery Protocol. Now, NDP utilizes those essential ICMPv6 packets we talked about earlier, and more importantly, it heavily depends on proper multicast switch configurations, specifically MLD snooping, to function without flooding your network and causing severe performance degradation. Because ARP is gone, naturally, clearing your ARP cache won't help you anymore. When you're troubleshooting stale connections, duplicate IPs, or DAD failed addresses, which means duplicate address detection failed, these are the exact commands you need to flush the neighbor cache across the major operating systems. Seriously, commit these to memory. It's IP-6 nay flush dev eth 0 for Linux, the netshift interface IPv6 delete neighbors command for Windows, and clear IPv6 neighbors for your systo gear. So, armed with this explainer, I want to leave you with a provocative thought and a bit of a challenge. Is your network actually functioning on IPv6 right now? Or is happy eyeballs just silently saving you, falling back to IPv4 and totally hiding a broken deployment? I highly recommend you go run a forced curl-6 test from your command line right now. Force the IPv6 connection, skip the fallback, and see if your network is truly what it appears to be. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.